The real-life ninja are way more interesting than the fictional ninja from movies. From the 6 essential items for every mission to the special skills and techniques. There's so much more to know about ninja and so much more we'll never truly know. I'm Jun from Japan Junkie and these are 10 secrets of the ninja. Number 10. We can thank James Bond for the introduction of the ninja into the Western world. Before the 1967 movie, You Only Live Twice, ninja were virtually unknown outside of Japan. In the 70s, movies featuring ninjas became popular in America, and the craze kept growing around the world through the 80s with ninja video games. In Japan, shinobi is what ninja are called. Both words mean the same thing and come from the same kanji, meaning someone who endures, hides, or conceals. But there are even more names for ninja that have existed over the years. Perhaps the most appropriate name for ninja comes from the 1500s, and that's nokizaru, meaning roof monkeys. Number 9. While people may think of a ninja's job as flying around on roofs and killing people at night, a ninja's main job was as a spy. They would collect information about their targets, spread false information, deliver coded messages, and disrupt their enemy's activity. Of course, there were also times when they would need to use force, and there were plenty of assassinations. If you've ever dreamt of working as a ninja, it turns out that Japan is low on ninja at the moment, especially those who are English speaking. And every now and then there are calls for gymnastic people to work at ninja attractions in Japan and pose for photos. So if you want to live the dream, and you fit the costume, maybe this is a job for you. Number 8. When people think of ninja, usually they think of them dressed in black, wearing a mask. If a ninja's job is to go undetected, there's nothing more suspicious than wearing black and covering your face. Ninja weren't rich, and black was an expensive dye at the time. Even at night, black stands out, so blue was a better choice. The idea of this black uniform probably came from Japan's theatres, where the stagehands would wear black from head to toe as a way of going unnoticed, like ninja. The real uniform of choice for a ninja was a disguise. This could be as a farmer, a peasant, a monk, a shrine maiden, or whatever would suit their purpose. Number 7. Ninja had to have a range of specialty skills that have come to be known as ninjutsu, which involved skills in fighting, stealth, escape, and survival. Because they had to collect information, this meant having a great memory, as they may not be able to report for months. If this didn't work, they would carve information on themselves, hide messages in their shoes, or use coloured rice to convey coded messages, similar to Morse code. They were also skilled at reading weather patterns because knowing the weather could give them a significant advantage, especially when setting their enemies' camps and castles on fire. They knew that a ring around the moon meant rain, or that dewdrops on spiderwebs meant fine weather. Number 6. Female ninjas were known as kunoichi, and may have been even more secretive than male ninja. There's very little known about them. However, there was a technique known as kunoichi no jutsu, meaning ninjutsu of a woman. This was a technique where women were used to gather evidence and information by gaining trust and listening to conversations. People were more likely to trust these women because they assumed that their enemies were men. One of the most famous kunoichi was Mochitsuki Chiyome, who was a noblewoman thought to have created a group of female ninja. Her network used hundreds of girls that were often trained to become messengers and assassins. Their disguises, that ranged from actresses to shrine maidens, meant that they could move around undetected and without anyone being suspicious of their behaviour. Number 5. Ninja often trained in mountains because the altitude would increase their lung capacity. This is pretty important because heavy breathing would increase their chances of being detected. They would place a feather on their nose and practice breathing with shallow breaths. The most well-known aspect of ninja training is probably sneaking and running. The ninja run is famous for being bent forward with arms trailing behind. It's thought that this would increase their speed because, as their weight was forward, their lungs could remain full of air. Ninja had to be able to outrun anyone, so this was one of their most important abilities. Because of all the sneaking around and walking on roofs, ninja were expected to be light on their feet. Japanese castles have famous hallways known as nightingale floors. The floorboards were built in a way that if you were to walk on them, they would squeak loudly and alert everyone that there was an intruder. Ninja would reduce their body mass and practice controlling their weight across their feet as they walked. They would even practice walking on rice paper to be able to move silently. Number 4. Ninja had a large range of weapons to choose from that were selected depending on the job that needed to be done. While katanas were probably the weapon of choice, they often used shorter and straighter swords known as ninjato that were more discreet. Instead of carrying these on their hip, like samurai, they often carried them on their back. which made it easier to access their swords in smaller spaces and while crouching. They also used a range of knives, which were used as tools as well. One of the more famous weapons associated with ninja are throwing stars known as shuriken, which means hand-hidden blade, because they were invisible before suddenly shooting out at a target. But these are more of a secondary weapon and are mostly used as a distraction tool rather than for actual damage. Bows were also used, but were usually shorter than the average Japanese bow of the time. This way they could use them in small spaces without being detected. However, a ninja's skill was in their ability to get things done without the use of weapons, and relying on bare essentials and the environment. Number 3. Apart from their weapons, ninja had an even larger number of items to choose from to take on a mission. The ninjutsu training teaches that the ninja should be careful to only take what is necessary, otherwise they could end up making too much noise or being weighed down by the amount of items. Some of the mission-specific items included smoke bombs, poisons, and kunai, which were double-sided knives used more as a tool but could be very useful as a weapon. But apart from all of the cool items, ninja had 6 practical essential items known as rokugu. A grappling hook, not just for climbing but also for locking a sliding door, making traps, carrying heavy things, and tying people up. Writing items used to make notes or messages. A straw hat to cover their face. A multi-layered medicine kit that hangs from the belt, mostly containing items for stomach problems or wound dressing. A very handy piece of cloth, which could be used to cover your face, carry things, filter water, make a rope, and many other things. And an item known as uchitake, which is a bamboo container that carried burning coals. Number 2. There are superstitions in Japan that we can thank ninja for. When you're in a tatami room, which is a Japanese-style room with woven mats, some people avoid stepping on the joins, as the superstition says that it will cause harm to your parents. It's the equivalent of step on a crack and break your mother's back in English. It's said that one of the origins of this has to do with ninja hiding under the floor of wooden Japanese houses. They could see the light coming through the cracks in the mat, and once the light went out, it meant that someone was walking directly above them and they would strike up with their sword. Stepping on the edges of tatami mats isn't particularly good manners, but the reason it's frowned upon is more likely because they can fray easily. However, the ninja story is a great way to get children to do as they're told and not step on the edges of tatami mats. Number 1. While samurai came from nobility, ninja were often farmers or peasants, which is part of the reason why little is known about them. The lower classes weren't likely to have the same education as the samurai, and they were unlikely to document their lives. The ninja lived by a code called nindo, meaning the way of the ninja. This included a rule about not spreading their secrets, which actually led to people believing the most amazing things about them. When little is known about something, all we can do is fill in the blanks. This worked for ninja because it created more fear. People started believing ninja had magical powers and could walk on water. They did invent a shoe that could potentially walk on water, but this was proven to be impossible by Mythbusters. Kawakami Jinichi is said to be the last ninja and the only real heir to the authentic ninjutsu, and he still practices out of his dojo in Kanagawa. It's unknown when ninja truly disappeared, but even if they did exist today, we probably wouldn't even know about it. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. You can leave a comment with any suggestions you have for future videos, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.